Behind the scenes of the great religious discussions, there is a reality that many prefer to ignore. A silent but extremely intense battle is being waged against one of the most consistent and faithful Christian denominations, the Seventh-day Adventists. What few know is that there is a carefully thought-out plan to discredit, weaken, and, if possible, destroy this church. But who is behind it? What are the real intentions of these critics? And above all, why so much hatred? Why this visceral revolt against a people who have simply decided to remain faithful to the Word of God? If you're interested in this topic, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share this video. And if you want to support our work even more, consider making a donation via Super Chat. Your contribution makes all the difference. Chapter 1. The Roots of the Attack. Why are Adventists so annoying? Before we understand the critics' plan, we need to understand why Adventists have always been a target. Since its official founding in 1863, this church has stood out for something very clear: a non-negotiable allegiance to the Scriptures. They defend principles that directly confront not only the practices of other religions, but also the interests of religious and even economic systems. Near while many groups have surrendered to cultural pressures and modern adaptations, Adventists have remained steadfast in keeping the Sabbath, caring for the body, looking forward to Christ's return, and, above all, openly denouncing doctrines they consider unbiblical. And it is precisely this consistency that is so disturbing. It's not just a theological issue, it's a question of discomfort. They expose by their very existence what many prefer to hide. Chapter 2. The critics' strategies. How they try to destroy Adventists. The critics' plan against Adventists is not explicit or openly declared. It takes place quietly, meticulously, and acts on several fronts to weaken this church. Let's take a look at some of the main strategies used, illustrated with real examples. 1. Systematic disinformation. Since the beginning of the 20th century, countless books, videos, and articles have appeared that misrepresent central Adventist teachings, such as the spirit of prophecy and Sabbath keeping. For example, in 2018, a documentary circulating on social media made false claims about Ellen White's writings, suggesting manipulation and contradictions without presenting any concrete basis. This strategy aims to create doubt and confusion. 2. Attacks against Ellen White. Ellen White, co-founder and prophetic figure of the Adventist Church, is one of the main targets. In the 1990s, there were academic and religious campaigns that questioned her authorship and credibility, even publishing articles accusing her of plagiarism and fraud. More recently, blogs and YouTube channels continue to distort her writings, omitting the historical and spiritual context. 3. Public ridicule. Memes and offensive jokes proliferate especially on social media, trying to discredit Adventist beliefs such as the Sabbath and the healthy lifestyle. In 2020, a video went viral mocking Sabbath keeping, impacting mainly young audiences. These tactics try to undermine the trust of the faithful and discourage new members. 4. Association with sects or heresies. Another old but persistent strategy is to label Adventists as sects or heretics in religious debates and even in academic articles. In 2015, a controversy with leaders of other Protestant denominations tried to link Adventists to non-Christian practices without foundation, just to keep interested parties away. 5. Cultural and legal pressure. In countries such as the United States and Brazil, there have already been court cases and debates to restrict Adventists' right to keep the Sabbath as a day of rest. In 2017, a court decision allowed a company to force employees to work on Saturdays, directly affecting Adventists. This pressure aims to force cultural conformity by weakening religious practice. These strategies, repeated at different times in history, show a coordinated effort to discredit and destabilize Seventh-day Adventists. But the question remains: will these attempts succeed in bringing down a church so firm in its faith? What do you think about these strategies used against Adventists? Leave your opinion in the comments. We really want to know what you think of these attempts by the critics. Chapter 3. Who's behind this plan? The attacks are not just coming from rival religious groups. There are three major fronts of opposition: sectors of traditional Christianity, some theologians and leaders who are deeply troubled by the Adventist rejection of certain doctrines, such as Sunday, eternal hell, and the immortality of the soul, atheist, and skeptical movements. Groups that attack any religion but have a special focus on Adventists because of their prophecies, health principles, and open defense of creation. Commercial and economic interests. The Adventist lifestyle, which preaches abstinence from alcohol, smoking, drugs, gambling, and promotes health, education, and temperance, directly contradicts large billion-dollar industries such as tobacco, beverages, and even sectors of the food industry. Chapter 4. They've tried before and failed. This plan is nothing new. Since the 19th century, Adventists have faced persecution, criticism, and false prophecies announcing their end. They have tried to slander Ellen White since her first writings. They said that the church would not survive her death. They tried to discredit the teaching of the Sabbath, the heavenly sanctuary, and the three angelic messages. But all these attacks failed. The church has not only resisted, but has become one of the fastest growing denominations in the world, with more than 22 million members, present in more than 200 countries, with a gigantic educational and hospital system, and with a globally recognized humanitarian outreach. Chapter 5. What is yet to come? The final attack is coming. The prophetic writings themselves, both in the Bible and by Ellen White, point out that before the return of Christ, Adventists would be the targets of global persecution, especially for their faithfulness to the Sabbath and their rejection of Sunday observance. The so-called Sunday decree, so often treated as a conspiracy theory by some, is, according to the prophecies, a rapidly approaching reality. And in this scenario, today's attacks seem small in the face of what is yet to happen. The Bible clearly warns of this persecution. In Revelation 13:7, it is written that He was permitted to make war on the saints and to overcome them. This passage reveals that those who are faithful to God will face difficult times, but it also shows that this spiritual warfare has a limit determined by the Lord. That's why the critics keep trying to misinform, distort, ridicule, and pressure. But, as always, the question remains, will they succeed? Chapter 6. The role of Adventist education in resisting attacks. One of the fundamental pillars that strengthens the Seventh-day Adventist Church in the face of attacks is its robust educational system. Since its origins, the Church has understood that the intellectual and spiritual formation of its members is essential for preserving the faith and defending against distortions and persecution. Today, Adventist education is present in more than 100 countries, with more than 8,000 schools and several higher education institutions which go far beyond basic education. Universities, colleges, and research centers promote an education that combines solid academic knowledge with biblical principles and Christian ethical values. This training enables leaders, pastors, and believers who are aware, critical, and prepared to face the challenges of a world that is increasingly complex and hostile to faith. It also encourages the development of thinking based on truth and integrity, forming citizens committed not only to the church, but also to social welfare, justice, and temperance. This continuous investment in education is a silent but powerful weapon against attempts to discredit the denomination. Well-educated members know how to recognize and refute false information, dialogue respectfully and firmly, and preserve the church's identity and mission. In this way, Adventist education is more than a means of internal growth. It is a real strategy to ensure that the church remains firm and faithful until the end of time. Despite the attacks, lies, and pressures, the truth remains unshakable. As has happened so many times in history, the critics' plan is doomed to fail, because no weapon forged against God's truth will prosper. Adventists are so attacked because they have decided to remain faithful. And in times of so much relativization, being faithful is costly. But this faithfulness is also the source of our hope and strength. With firm faith in God, we can face any challenge, certain that the final victory belongs to those who stand firm to the end. If this video made sense to you, don't leave without leaving your like, subscribing to the channel, and activating the bell. Write in the comments what you think about this scenario, and share this video with someone who needs to understand this reality. God bless. See you next time.